Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and I'd like to welcome you to our Ask Me Anything on Friday call. Today, we're also going to talk a little bit about how some of the specific jobs that baby boomers are well suited for as we come out of the pandemic. You know, lots of information about a lot of stuff going on with the post-pandemic freelancing world expected to boom. And as we're facing selective lockdowns still in different areas and people coming out of lockdown and then going back into it and that kind of thing. There's a lot of going back and forth and opening and closing. And frankly, a lot of communication needs to go on among the companies that are opening and closing and changing their hours and having certain rules for when people can come in and that kind of thing. So if you're just joining us, always fun to know where you're from. If you could just type in your where you're calling in from, that would be great. Where you're watching this from, always fun. This was a picture I took a couple years ago in Cancun. If you haven't been to Cancun, the water there is just stunning. It's a great great place to be. Not really like anything else I've seen in the world with that particular blue color water. And of course, this was more down towards the Tulum area where they have a lot of palm trees and not so much concrete and hotels. The sort of concrete and hotels section you can see up in the let's see, how can I do this? I want to do it this way, and I want to go up there. There's where all the hotels are on kind of the fabulous strip, and that's a great place to hang out and lots of stuff going on. But when I go to Cancun, I love to step down to the part of the Tulum part, the palm tree part. And so we have Allison checking in from Kansas City. Welcome. I'm not too terribly far away from you here in Texas now, so looking forward to get back down to Huatulco, trying to figure out how to get back there about every month on the 23rd of the month. Mexico and the U.S., the consulates have a meeting and they decide whether they're going to open the country up for people to return. And currently they are allowing tourists back into resorts, but I don't fit in that category because I have a place down there. So I would be going not as a tourist, basically to a hotel. I'm going to my place down there. And still in the United States, you can't leave, and Mexico is not accepting anybody but essential workers. So a little bit complicated. And Keys from Montevideo, good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. I guess let's see, you're going into your summer now, so it's going to be getting a little bit warmer, I guess, as you go forward now. And I know we have an International Living Conference. We're doing a virtual conference, next week coming up for Uruguay. So lots of interest in Uruguay as we go forward. And I see a few new people have joined in the room. If you'd just let me know where you're coming in from, that'd be great. Like to see where you're accessing us from. And even if you're watching this on the playback, we go back and into the chat, and the chat maintains, when we finish this live, as we're doing it on Friday the 13th, we will post it, and then we still get quite a few comments. In fact, most of the people that view this are there. And here's Randy coming in. Good to see you, Randy. Look like you're relaxed and comfortable there in your picture. Welcome. All righty. And so we just wanted to talk a little bit about how to think about these new jobs in the freelancing world, because everything says more freelancing, more freelancing, more freelancing. And one of the great aspects of that is a lot of us had experience as managers. You know, we had to figure out things like procedures for doing things. You know, if you've ever done a very good uh, job in a company and got promoted, a lot of times, at least for me, the reason was I was able to go into a small department at first and kind of figure out what was going on and then figure out a way to streamline it and write up a procedure so everybody knew how to follow it. And so that's what we got to. Well, the same thing is going on today. You know, there's a lot of procedures that have to be rewritten, and there are people that are you know, having to go in and figure this stuff out. And a lot of times the employees that are part of the staff don't have the experience or the background or the perspective of how to take something that is either not working or has to change dramatically, which could both be the case in the case of the pandemic, and figure all that out. And so I'd like to see if on the line while we're live here, has anybody ever had a managerial job where they had to create procedures? Just say yes or boo or something like that. Anybody had that experience where you had to kind of create procedures? Randy, I think you may have certainly had that given your background. And you know, a lot of us that grew up in the age of the computer had to do that. You know, there computer companies didn't exist when really when we were going through part of our career anyway. I'm trying to think. I guess the first computer I had on my desk was about 1982 with Apple, and I was unique in that most people did not have a computer on their desk at that time. You know, we would typically, when I was with Apple, I was in the national accounts section, so we went out to major Fortune 1000 companies, and we would sit down and we'd talk with them and want to hear what their total number of employees were and how many of them were working on a computer at that time, or a console or something like that. And it would be 1 or 2% of people in big Fortune 500 companies. I mean, if you can imagine that everybody was doing what we're doing today, all without the benefit of the email, you know, typing memos, Xeroxing memos, passing them around, putting them in mailboxes and headquarters offices, and sending them by mail, or we used to have mail pouch systems. So we had to make that whole transition of going from pretty much manual stuff to then pretty much digital stuff, and it created a whole bunch of new procedures and processes and that kind of thing. And you know, this whole pandemic situation feels kind of like the same sort of situation. You know, I mean, this is a big change. You know, a lot of us were hoping that the pandemic was done. Looks like it's making a little bit of a second wave. Good news is the vaccine is pretty much here. So over the next few months, lots of people will be getting that. And then over the next year, I'm sure pretty much everybody will have that. And again, those of us that are baby boomers, and it's a very early memory for me. I think, gosh, how old was I? I might have been in about the 5th grade, maybe. And we took the polio vaccine. You know, I remember very clearly the day that happened. We had to get a note signed from our parents that it was okay to take it. And they had these little paper cups, and you just went into the auditorium there where they had this set up, and every kid in the school went in and they took this thing. It was kind of like a syrupy sugar water thing, but it was the polio vaccine. And everybody did it. Yes. Yes, I remember HyperCard very much. That was an amazing product. That really is what led to the web. And, you know, back when HyperCard first came out, that was an Apple, I think it was an Apple product, because I was at Spinnaker, and we had acquired some products related to HyperCard, and it just let us look at our information in a whole new way and keep virtual card decks and be able to update them. You know, that's the big problem with procedures, is that they a lot of times they get developed and then they get stuck. You know, nobody looks at them for years and years, and everybody's doing whatever the process is, and the procedure changes. And we find that even in my little company, that you know, when something's working and everybody that's working with it kind of understands it, we don't necessarily go back and update the procedures. And even as we go through our history, we started about 19 years ago, and really been active in the online freelancing area, training for 14 years now. But we go back and look in procedures that say use this system, and we don't even have that system anymore. We've migrated to a new system, and because everybody pretty much knew how to operate the system, we just kept doing what we're doing. But then as things change and people are working in different areas and doing different things, and or the volume increases tremendously in a certain area, and we go back to and look at what we were doing, we find now that we have to update all our procedures. And we've started doing that using a tool called Notion. Notion is what they call a wiki. It's a way for companies to store all the information that they have, you know, for different groups that needs to be accessed by the group. Like what's the calendar for the next quarter? What events are we doing? What milestones are coming up? Are there human resource reviews or different things? And creating all that virtual stuff, it represents a great opportunity for baby boomers to dive in and learn this stuff. One new system that we're using is one called Notion, and it gives it's a great little sort of free-form way to put all kinds of information in there and have other people look at it and add their information to it internally. So it's great for the schedules that we run, and for looking at different things that have to do with our product development and product updates, and our Tuesday night calls and Wednesday night calls and Saturday calls. So we do lots of updating in there, and when something has changed, then everybody gets to see it. So it's a real plus. Another tool that we are using is called Asana. And this is a project management tool. And if you think about it, everything you do is a project. And this is a very important attitude to have when you work with a freelance client. A lot of new freelancers say, well, that person just wants me to freelance and proofread an article or something like that. And the way you want to think of that is that article is part of an overall project. You know, there's some project going on that may go on the website, it might go in the company newsletter, it might go in a client newsletter, it might go to all three of those places and even more. It might go on Facebook. So there's lots of emphasis on, in the freelance world, on hiring freelancers that, quote, get the idea of a project. And that's something, when I interview freelance buyers, that the freelance buyers don't quite, or the freelancers, new freelancers, don't quite get that the buyers are looking for that, you know, big picture point of view. And so it's a big mistake to think that you're just going in and doing one project. And if you do one project, that's going to be the end of it, or that's all you're ever going to do for that client. It's great to have conversations around this concept of, hey, what other stuff are you doing, or how does this fit into the overall scheme of things? And clients are usually very happy to tell you, to give you the big picture. The more you understand about them, the easier it is for you to work with them and them to work with you. They get to understand your style and that sort of thing. And Randy's commenting on Asana. Yeah, there's a couple tools out there that kind of fit this bill. And Google just came out with a big new tool in this area that doesn't work very well, but it's Google, and that give them a few years and it'll be working extremely well. And all these tools tap into this design concept from Japan called Kanban, Kanban. Let me just see if I can. And it's very interesting because it's all about simplicity. And let me see here if we can get a. Yeah, here's one. I don't know if we're going to be able to see this or not. This is a company that has a website. I'll share this with you as soon as I get the pop-ups off the page here. And there we go. We're going to share the screen. We're going to share a tab. And that is. And this is from a site called Digite, maybe, I guess. I guess that's what it is. And it's a real simple concept. You have this board, and it has the categories to do, doing, done. And when you start on a task, if you have a task to do, when you start on it, you move it into the doing area. And then when it's complete, you move the task into the done area. So on a relatively small board, somebody can see what they're doing. Now, of course, this has gone virtual, and companies like Trello and Asana and the new Google entry, and I believe Microsoft even has an entry in this area they just came out with. This is generally around the world very well accepted as a tool for managing software projects, design and development projects in manufacturing organizations all use this Kanban methodology. And, if you get too many scraps of paper in the doing category, that's an indication you might be overwhelmed, and you might need to take a few of them and put them back in the to-do category until you sort of get caught up on the ones that you're doing presently, looking at the ones that you need to do the most now. And the great thing about these systems, and I will, let's see, I'll put a link in, let me move back here to our, stop, there we go. And we'll move back over here to the real world. Yeah, and I see Randy's making the comment that that's a big shift for Google, and it's exciting to see what they'll bring, because they're definitely a very engineering organization, and they run certainly a lot of these programs that they run in software in Agile. It's called Agile Development, which is a tool that's a methodology that sort of overlaps with Kanban. So likely to see that as we go forward. And so one of the things that I like to do, and one of the things we do in our Tuesday night call, is help point people in the direction of links. And so we'll take a look at Trello, and I'm going to send you that link here. And we'll get that. There we go. Well, Trello doesn't want to copy for some reason. So, love the internet. But this is the one thing that baby boomers basically have to learn how to do, is that they have a lot of experience solving problems. And they have built systems like this and worked with other problem solving systems. But what happens is the new technology comes along to help solve those different problems and that kind of thing, and we miss out because we're not trained up on it. And we live in a marvelous time because you can go into this link and you can get some information on Trello, but then you can also look up Trello in a search window on Google, and you know, intro. Let's see. Here we go, and I'll share this as soon as I get the screen pulled up. So now we have lots of good tools that will get you in the uh, give you the ability to self-educate, and that's really pretty remarkable. Is that you can sit at home and build on the knowledge that you have on how to use these systems, and your knowledge of these systems comes together very quickly. Most companies use these very simply. It's not getting deep into software like in the old days. If you were in the, people in the accounting department were way deep down into whatever the accounting software was, and then they it was something that could almost not be explained to anybody without 40 to 100 hours of training on how the accounting system worked. So very unapproachable, and these new systems are quite approachable. And then let me just do this other one. Let me figure out how to do this. We'll get to Asana. And Asana is the same thing. Most of these are what you would call freemium. Uh, that's how they're marketed, is that they give you a few. Let's see, we're still hustling to get over here. They let you try it for free and use it usually for 2 weeks to 30 days. They all have these things, and a lot of people use it for their personal management. And there are free versions of Asana and Trello that if all you want to do really is use your personal uh, uh, tools, your personal computer and your personal computing environment, if you just want to use it for help for you to manage what you do, these are very useful. They obviously become much more useful when you have a group of people using them. And certainly now, with many people being in the virtual world, this is what's going on. So I'm going to do my best to grab this link and then pop it back into um, the window here. There you go. We'll hit the go button there. And so you might want to try out Asana or Trello just to take a look, because there's a lot of demand for people that know how to use those systems. And really, in 2 to 3 hours, you could get the gist and be a simple user of those systems. So that would be good. And then the last thing I'm going to look up here quickly is the Wikipedia, to give you a little education on the Kanban concept, because a lot of people give Wikipedia a bad rap because a lot of the information has not necessarily correct or precise, but it's a very good tool for figuring out just at a top level what's going on with something. And so I'll get over here and share the screen on this one. Let's see. There we go. And I'll grab that in Wikipedia and pop it over here. But you can see sort of the history of it used in manufacturing. Was a big, there was a time when Toyota was seen, this is going back, I want to say 30 or 40 years ago, as not a very good car company. And they applied this Kanban formula and a few different things and completely turned the company around. And since that time, it's been kind of a legendary tool to use in different kinds of operations. It seems to scale up to some for large companies. They start out with a little group using Kanban, and then they're able to spread it across the whole company or division or whatever it might be. And so a lot of good stuff to know. And if somebody is looking for somebody that understands Trello or understands Asana, they are going to be looking for somebody that understands what the heck a Kanban system is. And here in a couple of pages, you're going to be able to educate yourself on what a Kanban system is, and what it means. And that many times will open up the doors on a project that you might bid on as a freelancer, is just being able to walk in there with a knowledge of what that particularly means in that case. So good. Let's see here. So want to make sure you get to Trello and also Asana. And let me see if I can get that wiki link in there as well. Because this is the kind of stuff, I used to think about prepping for job interviews, and I'd go to the library and look up everything I could on the company I was interviewing for and buy magazines and try to figure out how they're doing financially. And of course, all this stuff for so many years was not available, particularly in the early days of my career, when you're sort of, you're new and you don't have a lot of experience. So you're looking for those entry level jobs. And that would really do well for you in an interview if you walked in and you knew something about the company and their position in the market and how well they're doing financially. So these are all good things to take into account when you're whenever you want to find out anything. And so I guess what I saw going back a number of years ago, maybe I first got on Elance about 19 years ago. And what I realized is that even though back then the jobs were primarily technical, that we started to see what I call soft jobs coming onto those networks, like proofreading, editing, writing articles, all that kind of stuff came into those networks. And the number of those kind of jobs on networks has been growing substantially. It's now in some cases 30 to 50% on some networks. So you see certainly a lot more of it now. And if you're in an interview situation on a freelance network, or you're being asked to respond to some questions, like they'll ask a question, do you know what Kanban is? And I know we've gone through several hiring spates, and when we bring on consultants to do one thing or another, we work with a lot of freelancers. That's one of the first questions I ask, is if they're familiar with Kanban, because if they're familiar with Kanban, they can very quickly adjust to a system like Trello or like Asana. And that I know that we can save 10 hours right there if they know something about Kanban. And I'm happy if they know as much as is on that Wikipedia page, and just have a sense of what's going on there. So let's see. Does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts? What are you experiencing in your freelance life? If you started, happy to talk about any barriers you might have to freelancing. have you run into something that kind of is holding you back in terms of making progress on that? Happy to help you troubleshoot that. That's a lot of what we do in our Tuesday night call. And this Tuesday night, we're in our challenge series. Let me see if I can pump that up for you. Let's see here. Get the old StreamYard sharing the screen. I guess that's it. I'll hope that's it. So can you see that slide there? It's popped up. Just let me know in the chat. Just a yes. I want to make sure it says keywords and skills in your profile on my screen, and just want to see if you're seeing that. If we're kind of broadcasting that. You know what? Let me turn off the chat stuff. There we go. And that's actually the wrong window because that's the window that shows me and that. But we'll go with it anyway. Okay. And let's see if I can get that rascal to change. That's going to be the trick. Okay. And so one of the things we talked about on our Tuesday night call was this idea of focus, and being in the pandemic and dealing with different situations. And, a lot of people are dealing with being at home now, which really changes the equation, where you might have younger kids or even pets that are, they're happy you're home all day. They don't quite get it. And you need to be able to have 8 hours of uninterrupted time. You can't have the dog barking if you're doing Zoom calls and that kind of thing. And there's some apps that help you avoid distraction. And this is a real big problem with working at home, is you have many more distractions than you might other have working in the office. In fact, this is one of the big fears of managers in companies, is unless their people are underfoot, meaning they can look out there and see them, that they're not going to do the work. They're going to be goofing off. They're going to be watching cartoons or working in their garden or whatever. And a lot of statistics starting to show up now that show that employees actually work longer hours when they work from home, by about 2 hours typically. And, nobody knows for sure, and this will be studied well as we go forward. But the thought is that what's the reason for that is that they don't have to get up and get dressed and fight traffic to get in and grab breakfast along the way and go to lunch while they're at the company. And, when you can do lunch on your own schedule and you're working from home, doesn't need to take an hour. You walk to the refrigerator and make a sandwich and you're done. And now that can go pretty fast. So an interesting article on the week. So you can certainly just Google that, 11 apps, websites, and extensions that will help you focus. And that is something that would come up. And then one of the other things that we covered is this whole idea of how you move through this process of freelancing, and the bottom blue area here is establishing the connection. Most people think it's about what skills do I have, and that's part of it, certainly. But the other part of it is knowledge, wisdom, problem-solving skills, what I would call behavioral skills. You know how to organize things. You know how to, when the apple cart is upset, you know how to get it right and get all the apples back in the cart and get rid of the bad apples and figure out what to do with the good ones and that sort of thing. And we want to do all this activity before you get to the process of building your profile. And your profile is a little bit like your resume, but it's completely different. Resumes tend to focus on chronological order. They want to look and see what job titles you had. And the freelance buyer doesn't want to waste the time to go through all of that. They want to see what skills you have and what evidence of using those skills you have. And they don't care if you had a 6-week gap of employment or anything like that. They're just looking for people that have the skill set and the proven result. And then as we're moving up the pyramid, one of the really important skills, and this is where a lot of people fail when they go into online freelancing, particularly baby boomers, is they go onto a few networks and they say, oh my God, this is great. There's 150,000 jobs on this network. And actually, that's a big problem because you can't go through 150,000 jobs. And one of the things that we do in our program is teach people how to narrow that 150,000 on a daily basis down to the 12, really a dozen to 2 dozen jobs that are really a good fit for you. And then the next part of that, of course, is teaching people how to write proposals to capture those jobs and winning strategies around that. So just a lot of good things to pay attention to. And if you get the order of any one of these out of whack, it just takes so much longer to kind of get your freelance business going. So I would say that we spend and our coaches spend a lot of time working with people, sort of getting them unstuck, and the stuckness comes from these different equations. And so, Tom, thanks for the compliment. Very good. Excellent. So the next opportunity in a lot of this, particularly for working for smaller businesses, is this idea of setting policies. There are new policies being posed by the government. You got to have everybody distanced by 6 feet. And I heard something the other day, they're thinking about making it 3 feet and wearing masks, but 6 feet when you're standing in line, and just different things like that that we don't know yet. All these will come down over the next year. And so the idea is that policies take a little bit more perspective than just writing procedures. So if you've have worked as a manager and have experience doing that kind of thing, sort of setting departmental policy, and I mean, it could be something as simple as when the toner gets to the 25% level of the copy machine, you got to let the person, that's time to change the toner, because we don't want to run it dry and then have people coming in the afternoon having to get things out and there's no toner in there. So we're not talking about policy that's going to guide the company through the future. We're talking about just, we've got to think through simple things. And I know that in many cases, as a marketing consultant, I would work with clients, and a lot of my job was to help them set policy about the frequency of their campaigns and how they segment their audience and that kind of thing. But you really have to think of things from a strategic level, and that's what we're going for here is bringing some of that strategic thinking that you've done over the years and bringing that to the fore. And that's why we talk about domains of knowledge, and those are so important, because when you bring those into freelancing, that has a lot of value. If somebody's hiring somebody to help with policies, they want in many cases a sounding board. It's funny, I know many of the clients that I work with, they wanted me to help with policies, and I had no experience in their business, but they were able to sort of raise what we would call trial balloons and it helped them think about the problem in different ways and arrive at a policy that only they could come up with. But I was able to take them through some of the thinking processes that would help them get to that policy. And so that's always a good thing. All righty, we're coming up on we're the 45-minute mark for the hour. So I would very much encourage you to press the like button there. That helps get this message out to a number of folks, and usually we get about 10 or 20 times more people that are participating on the recorded version of this, so that helps them see that. So very much encourage you to hit like there and subscribe, so as we post things, you'll see them. Would like to go around the campus here and basically see if anybody's got any questions or comments before we sign off today. Kind of a crazy time with the election. I know that's got everybody kind of what would you say? Stressed would probably be the right word. And we're not able to, there's not a real clear feeling that we can go forward and plan on this or plan on that. That's, things are still up in the air. So a little bit of that going on. And but the good news is freelancing is going to do very well in all this as we come out of this, and really looking forward to moving forward with whatever the outcome is. That's kind of the great thing about being the freelancer, is that you can kind of find your own path. There's going to be great demand for that, and certainly having something more flexible than just all employees is going to be very much more attractive to businesses, because they've seen that you can get work done with remote workers. And so we're looking forward to when that comes, and really expect quite the flood of business activity beginning at that particular point. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming on the call today, and appreciate the questions, and look forward to seeing our members that are on the call in our Tuesday night calls, and this coming Tuesday night. And we'll see the rest of you on our Facebook pages and in our YouTube channel and that kind of thing. And have a great week freelancing, and take care. Adios.